Okay, without further ado, if you would allow me, guys, I would want to start the Global Ubuntu Dialogue today. I want to introduce our honorable guest today, Dr. Langmeyer. Last week, I think I gave a brief description about him. He is a Fulbright scholar and a professor, and a chair in the Department of Strategic, Legal, and Management Communication in the School of Communication in Howard University. He's also a graduate of Communication and Media Studies from Howard University, and he's got extensive knowledge and expertise in information communication technology, and also intercultural, cross-cultural, and international communication. In addition to that, he's written 17 book chapters. He's reviewed 10 peer-reviewed journal articles nationally and internationally. In 2017, I just want to mention this, Dr. Langmeyer was awarded a prestigious award of the Toyin Falola African Book Award in Morocco, and by the Association of Global South Studies for his book titled Globalization and Cyber Culture, an Afrocentric Perspective. In the last 4 years, he has been selected by Howard University to act as a scholar coach for Howard University Summer Writing Academy. So we've got someone who is a compendium of knowledge, and he's kind of very phenomenal. I'm so looking forward to this. Last week, we said that in order to commemorate Martin Luther King's memory today, we've got him joining the conversation. So you're warmly welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just start with a question. Who is Martin Luther King? Because we're celebrating him today, isn't it, on our platform? Who is he?
All right, before I get into that answer, I would like, first of all, to pay my tribute to Oziri University for organizing this, because the Oziri University actually venerates what we see in the future as the Black identity. I'm talking about Black identity. I would like to start by apologizing to the ancestors of Africa that when I am in this kind of platform where I'm talking to my fellow Black race, I am using the Western language. I should have been using Swahili, Wolof, Igbo, or Yoruba. But because we were brainwashed and brain dry cleaned, we are now using the foreigner's language. So I need to apologize. Believing that I have temporarily been given that permission, let me go ahead. So thank you, Martin Luther King. I think the closest scholar I can think of who actually described Martin Luther King so vividly to us is my brother Rylan Rabaka in Colorado University, who called him, referencing Antonio Gramsci, as an organic intellectual. An organic intellectual, which is the opposite of inorganic, is somebody with deep thinking, somebody of its stature that is not only deep thinking, but a political activist, a social organizer, and a cultural icon, which is only next to Socrates for now. That is the Martin Luther King, whose influence was not only for the Black race, but for the entire world. I don't need to tell you how many times or how many languages I have a dream has been translated into, my dear sister. That is Martin Luther King. So if you're not moved by what he said, I think nothing can move you on planet Earth.
Wow, 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 fantastic. Thank you, Professor, for that wonderful introduction. Now, I always hear this phrase, I have a dream, I have a dream, I have a dream. Anytime we hear that phrase, we always remember Martin Luther King. So we know Martin Luther King, but please, can you remind us that dream, which we have all heard in his, famous speech, please?
I have a dream. The word dream is, from a literal point of view, fictitious. Fortunately, that of Martin Luther King is not fictitious, it's real. That dream was it called for us to think about our status politically, economically, and culturally. I know most of us who have come across that dream remember the expression in that speech that I want to live in a world where my children are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that is what is known most, especially in the world, especially in the Western world. What people have failed to understand also, or not propagated, is his dream about violence. He was a non-violent prophet, borrowing, of course, from Mahatma Gandhi. And he was warning blacks who were being perpetrated, who were being manhandled in all spheres of life in the United States, that they should meet physical violence with soul violence. And of course, that reminds us of what happened here in the United States in the summer. That with the Black Lives Movement, they were not supposed to engage in any violence whatsoever. Again, in that I Have a Dream speech, we all remember he said that he believes and dreamed that there will come a time when sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will sit on the table of brotherhood. What is happening today, my brother and sister? Can you imagine with somebody like Amanda Gorman on the podium of the world? Can you imagine somebody like the vice president representing a race and representing the entire United States with that color? This was what he was dreaming about. This was what he was saying that it can happen. And just yesterday, for somebody like Lord Austin, defense secretary for the first time in history, for a black man to be the defense secretary of the United States, this is the dream of sons of former slaves and sons of slaves to sit in the table of brotherhood. Now, with Amanda, with Oprah, with our vice president, now the white race will now understand that you need to judge people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I was moved to tears with Amanda Gordon's poetry, just listening to her. I was equally moved to tears when I'm watching CNN with Abby Phillips, demonstrating to the rest of the world that Martin Luther King's dream was real. And that we need to also understand that this thing, James Baldwin used to say, this thing called color should not and should never be our enemy.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. You began by saying, giving a shout out to Dr. Reland Rabaka. He was actually an old colleague of mine back at UNH. Yeah. So if Dr. Rabaka is here, peace. I haven't seen you in a long time. I hope you're doing well. You said something very extremely interesting a couple of seconds ago. 2 words. Soul violence. Soul violence. And what I'm getting from that is this pricking of the human consciousness that Dr. King worked to do through his movement, to prick the human consciousness, to incite people to want to be better. Could you expound on that expression as you?
Yes. The idea of the soul violence was that our physical, psychological, and cognitive quality should speak for itself. And that we should not involve in any act that is going to give the so-called enemy, unquote, to think that we are so-called monkeys that they used to describe us. Right. No, and you should meet it with soul violence, with peace, with love, and with dignity. Remember, my brother, Dr. Paul, you picked me here. Dr. Chris Wilson, assistant professor at Howard University, said this, and I quote, that we are the only people on planet Earth that have been taught to sing and praise our demeanment. I am a thug, I'm a hoe, I'm a gangster. That if you can train people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them for the rest of their life.
That's right.
That's what Dr. Creswell used to say. You can even train them to kill themselves and do not know what has happened to them. So when you hear black and black violence in South Africa, this is Dr. Creswell. And Martin Luther King's dream was that, no, get away from this. The human mind, the black human mind is flowing with milk and honey. Reasons. We are the only race that have not received any reparation. Remember, the Jews got theirs. The Japanese American got theirs. But yet we have not revenged. The black race has not revenged. Yet 400 years, to quote James Baldwin, who was speaking in England in 1965, that does 400 years not make us citizens of the United States? When you participated in building the country for 400 years, yet you are being allowed to stay in the ghetto at Harlem? What race on human planet has endured that kind of suffering? And yet they are peaceful, loving people. Yet their mind is still flowing with milk and honey. That is the black race for you. So that's the idea of the soul violence. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Yes, of course.
Well, you highlighted, very interesting, you highlighted some of the dream, that Martin Luther in his speech, some of the things that he dreamt about, and he says, but can you tell us an idea aspect or things that he said in that speech that is yet to be realized?
Good. Again, I will, even before I even go to, I will have a dream speech. Remember what he said in I've been to the mountaintop. And I've been to the mountaintop, which was given in the same year that he was assassinated, 1968. Huh? He said he was afraid that America was going to go to hell. And on Thursday, while in that Lorraine motel, he was preparing a Sunday speech, which he never delivered, why America might go to hell. I don't want to bring this to you. Why America may go to hell. Look at what has happened with our movement with BLM. Look at what is happening with the insurrection at the US Capitol. Look at what even when he was saying in that speech that we should meet violence with soul force. Look at the violence that was emitted on people who were peacefully marching. And some are here in the United States. And then people who were carrying out insurrection on the US Capitol. The policemen were taking pictures with them. My dear Dr. Amarachi, can you imagine something like that? This is something that has not been realized. So had it been they listened to Martin Luther King, they would have noted that those who were carrying out the insurrection, they were more violent than those who were just participating, peacefully marching on the streets of the United States. Advocating for what? That let justice be brought to bear to the culprit of the murder of George Floyd in Minnesota. And again, let me also say something that he said in the speech. Right now, even with Barack Obama being our first black president, do you know how long it took? How many years? 52 years? 57 years? Imagine if this thing happened 1 year, 2 years, 3 years after Martin Luther King made that speech in 1968. Imagine where the black person could have been today. Maybe we could not have been waiting for the movie, The Panther, the Black Panther, to change the way we believe and behave. Not to be using the Western language, wearing the Western clothes, having the Western hairdressing, believing or using cream to make ourselves look light. What is wrong with us, my dear Dr. Amarachi? Why is it that we don't believe in what we have? This is what we've not yet realized. So Martin Luther King's dream is still out there, asking all these questions.
I think a whole lot, is still happening to us. And it still boils down to what you said earlier on. If you can get us to say things that are demeaning and accept things that are demeaning of ourselves, then you're actually oppressing us, you're enslaving us. We have not come to a point to realize the value, that we have as a race, as a people. And I think it has a lot to do with our perspective. It has a lot to do with our mindset, Professor.
Thank you.
And I don't know, but it's still an ongoing conversation, and it's still something that's.
I was telling Dr. Kalu the other day when he and I had a Zoom. I was saying Molefi Asante spoke in South Africa that there is no African university. Anyway, I was talking about Syria. That what we have in Africa is pan-European universities. Pan-European universities. Look at the curricula that was given to us, imposed on us. I should use the word imposed on us. When I had to abandon my local experience and attended the first primary school in Cameroon where I was born. I could not speak my language. I was now learning about the London Bridge, my sister. I was learning about Queen George. Can you imagine what a curse to a people? And so I was confused. I came home, I was asking my mother, why is it that I'm supposed to learn a language that I don't even know? And remember, my name is what? Buma Langmia. My father had to delete Vincent, which was imposed on me on baptism. No. I cannot be giving you a name on somebody from a different part of the world that I don't know the history. So retain your name, Kebuma. Kebuma means when war is coming, I receive it with my left hand. Langmia means I'm surrounded by friends and foes. And that's the name I've been carrying, Dr. Amarachi. That's the name I've been carrying. So I've been looking for a way to extricate myself from the cocoon of westernization. And that is why most of my publication is about decolonization and de-neocolonization. So that's why I love Osiri. Because Osiri is a university where they blend local experience with what? Cultural realities. So that is our problem. That's the perspective you're talking about. We were spoon-fed, forcefully spoon-fed with Euro-American way of thinking and living, even with the digital communication, with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, everything. We have to wait from them. We don't want to promote our Niger power. We don't want to promote our Koliko. We don't want to promote anything done by an African. Hey, my sister, these are things that can bring tears to one's eyes. What really went wrong with us? Dr. Marachi, why can't we look for the medicine? Why can't we look for the medicine to show that humankind started in Africa, in East Africa? This mankind that we started in Africa. This thing called civilization started in Africa. Even the name Africa was imposed on us. Remember the Roman Empire? Remember? Yep. It came from the word Africa. Africa means from Tunisia, the land of sunny. And they imposed even my country, Cameroon, Rio dos Cameroon, the Portuguese. So we are answering the name of a country imposed on us.
Yes. So is Martin Luther King's vision, do we have to readjust how we understand Martin Luther King's vision after 50 years of still experiencing, racial oppression throughout the world? Do we have to adjust how we understand Martin Luther King's vision?
Of course. All what I'm saying is it's not only readjustment, but look at our public school system. You want me to go there? You want me to talk about homeschooling now, my brother? Do you know that even before coming to this show, I was questioning my two sons that are in public school down south. They were asking, can you tell me a little bit about Martin Luther King? Tell me about Malcolm X. Oh, we don't learn about that. They just tell us a little. Can you imagine? You want me to go to the public school system? So we need to readjust. Look at the textbooks, Dr. Paul. Look, my own textbook will not even be approved to be used in the public school system. Yeah. The other day I was telling my PhD students at Harvard, that do you know that they're even deleting the word slavery and in some textbook in the South, Dr. Can you imagine? They don't want these kids growing up to start learning about the negative things about what happened to the Black people in this country. So how are we going to heal? How are we going to heal? So we need to readjust. We have to.
Yeah, that's critical.
It's critical.
Yeah.
That's why I've decided to stay at Howard. Because come to our campus. You feel safe. Oh, my brother.
Yes, yes, yes.
And congratulations to you and to Howard University for producing the first
Oh, Kamala
African
Harris.
American
Right, right,
vice
yes.
president.
Yeah, oh
First
my
vice president, yes.
Yeah, and Chadwick Boseman, you know, I was there. I listened to Chadwick in our commencement speech at Howard, and I had tears in my eyes. I said, "Look at talent, my brother. Look at talent. Look at this is Martin Luther King. This is what he said. That judgment by the content of that character. Look at Howard, the mecca of Black intelligentsia. So thank you. I accept that congratulations from the top part of my heart, not from the bottom. I don't know why people get. I like the top part. Why? Because that's where the blood flows into my head. So I said from the top part of my heart. Thank you, my brother.
Wow, wow. I just want to touch on something. I mean, you mentioned something about the curriculum, and it's something that you've been working on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share with us some strategies now? In my university, we talk about this, but I'm beginning to see it as one of those fancy languages that, you know, or acronym that, you know, the top management would just churn out. In reality, it doesn't quite translate into what we want to do. It's not fit for purpose. So could you tell us how can this be done from a real, because you have some experience from a realistic point of view?
Okay, thank you. Just about I think 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we had to readjust our goals in my department within Black Lives Movement. So the goals of my department have drastically shifted. And I was telling the faculty member that this is something that I live for. Read my works. I have been writing about decolonization and deneocolonization for a long time ago. Last summer, I was teaching a course called Communication Theory. You know, I approached the course. I thought for undergraduate students, I thought three theories, Western, and then the other 3 theories, Afrocentric. My student had never come across Afrocentricity by Molefi Asante. They had never come across critical race theory by Degaldo. They had not known about Black feminism. My sister, this is how we change the curriculum, by doing it. And remember, I was in Ghana in 2018, where I was presenting as a keynote speaker for their curriculum change in communication education. And I told them that for us to start changing our curricula, to make it Pan-African, to make it Afrocentric, let's encourage our students to start quoting African authors, reading African books, using African proverbs. You know, Chinua Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart. How many years and things are still falling apart, my sister, after his death? Can you imagine? We celebrate things fall apart, yet we don't want to move according to the dictates of what things fall apart. Years and years ago, they came and said African culture doesn't matter. Why are we still harvesting theories from the West? Why are we still believing that the West is the standard when it is artificial, with the artificial boundaries of our countries and the languages? So that is where we need to start. What courses are we offering? How are we approaching it? Are we using local realities? So that is how you change the curriculum. There are no 2 ways about it, my sister, Dr. Marriage. So that's what I said there in Ghana. And thank God, one professor actually admitted to me that no, he never thought about this thing, because all the children in Africa, they grow what their mind is only to be what? Jay-Z. They're looking at the West. No, it is from all that we should let them know it is artificial. It's not real. That's how we start.
Oh,
And you know, let me just add this, because oftentimes people may become a little bit hesitant when they hear Afrocentric curriculum. They say, well, you are trying to basically replace Westernized curriculum with Afrocentric curriculum. And I always say, look, actually infusing a healthy dose of Afrocentricity into a course not only helps the African people and the world, but it also helps even the West.
Yes.
I strongly believe that the reason why you have so many people who have a racist orientation is because they've grown up just thinking about themselves, about their own heroes, that they are the ones who ruled the world and the world is meant for them. The curriculum teaches them that. But if they had been learning from a tender age about other people, they would have grown up to think about other folks as being equal contributors to civilization. That is, what is your take on that?
Thank you, my brother. I remember you brought me back to 1965 debate with James Baldwin and William Brinkley in England, when he said, what the white man have done to the black man, it's so deep that they have not even told him what they have done. What wrong have the black man done? Forcefully ejected from Africa, blinding our forefathers and taking them. The Arab, first of all, forcefully came to Africa, imposed the Arabic, imposed their culture. Then the European came again, imposed their ways of life, imposed their education. And now even when they came to the United States, living them peaceably, my brother, you impose the Jim Crow, you impose segregation. What wrong have these people done? And he said, if only they are being re-educated to know that they are just as anybody else. Let me give you a story what happened to Mr. Brooks down there in Alabama, sometime during the Jim Crow era. This young man boarded the bus. They told him to go at the back. This was just during the era of Rosa Parks. He looked at the back and saw that it was already populated. There were no seats. So he requested the bus driver to give back his dime so that he can go down and walk. The driver refused and instead called the cops. The cops came and forcefully pushed him to go down the bus. He said, I cannot go down until I get my dime. You know what they did? They shot him and pushed him down the bus. He later died of his wounds. This is what the wife narrated. Do you know what is in the mind of that police officer? And this is what James Baldwin was saying, that what is worse is not actually the black man suffering, it's actually the white person who is perpetrating that. Something is wrong in his mind. This is not a human being. And it comes back to the kind of education, the kind of books they are reading. They were taught that the black man is a non-entity. A black man has nothing to contribute to this world. He's a subhuman. Remember, you and I had a discussion the other day that I said I don't use the word sub-Saharan Africa. Didn't I tell you that? Because there are people living in the Sahara. So anything is about sub. I said I use the term tropical Africa. They always believe that we are secondary. That we are so. If you read King Leopold's activities in the Congo, when they came there and saw naked people, what they did to these people, or you read Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, how they describe us. I don't know. You come and you see human being. Instead of learning how they live, learning their culture, you just impose your Western notion on them that these are subhuman, these are next to animals, and then you just completely murder them, you just completely put them in a category that is next to chimpanzees and orangutan. And you publish them in books that become the bestsellers. Imagine what people growing with that kind of mentality. That is why it's becoming so difficult for us to realize Martin Luther King's dream today. Because they had drummed it in their mind from their educational perspective. I studied in Germany, and I also studied in the United States. You need to see the question that were being asked of me. When are you going back? What do people live on trees in Africa? Look at the kind of questions. Do you people look at Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie? Was even mocked. She had to throw grenades at the journalists in France who asked her, are there libraries in Nigeria? I'm sure you guys have seen that. You're asking somebody in this century, are there libraries in Nigeria? And Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie was completely thrown aback, and she just had to let loose her emotion. And that this is what is wrong with French people's notion of Africa. Why are they thinking that way? If the way we're brought up, that we are unimportant.
I mean, I think you are really hit the chord here, because James Baldwin was very strong about African Americans. In fact, he made a clear call in one of his speeches. He said he told African Americans to pull their kids out of the public schools. Yes. And he said, I don't know the strategy. He said, I'm not a strategist. I'm not sure what we should be doing. But he said, one thing I'm sure of is we should pull them out from the schools and figure out something else. for ourselves. That is James Baldwin, and he's a loving man, and he's a man that everyone revered, just like MLK, right? So I appreciate you sharing that.
This is from the Q&A. What is the implication of Dr. King's message, redistribute the pain? Implies to the economic emancipation of Africans at home in Africa. How can the youth across the continent visualize this assertion?
Redistribute the pain.
Yeah, the economic call to redistribute the pain.
You know, I always like to laugh on something like this because we have it. We certainly believe that until you feel the pain, you will not know where it hurts. No, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know that the police officer who was on the neck of George Floyd in Minnesota was not feeling the pain? Imagine that imagine that you get the pain that this guy was saying, I can't breathe, to that police officer. He's going to be re-educated. He is going to readjust his mindset. He's going to be conscientized. And then he's going to pull back when next he's confronted with that kind of situation. When Martin Luther King was in the South, or with the Selma move with John Lewis, I don't even want to go into all those kind of things, and even with Malcolm X, with James Baldwin, they were trying to let the white American feel their pain. Oh, watch the movie Rosewood. Watch Rosewood. You just come and you put fire on people's houses, and you don't care where they will live. The lynching. Now, come and listen to some of the lectures at Howard. That I'm sure you will not even eat for 10 days. That people can live without feeling the pain of another, without being empathetic, and yet the people are still forgiving and peaceful today. So let's redistribute that pain, and let's see what the world will be tomorrow. Maybe empathy will sow a seed on the world. That is it. That's how I would reply.
I think that's a very important point, empathy. So others can feel and understand exactly what we're going through. Otherwise, it's just people like, they're just watching.
Yeah.
They don't feel it. And that's what the point earlier about soul violence. You know, Martin Luther King wanted people to understand the pain. That's why he wanted to make sure that the cameras were there and people could witness exactly what we're going through, so they can understand that pain.
Let me just add something, Dr. Paul. You know, Martin Luther King was in Ghana. You know that?
Yes.
1957. With the invitation of Kwame Nkrumah. Right. And Ghana was, of course, the first country in Africa that got its independence. Kwame Nkrumah said, Ghana cannot be independent unless other African countries. I do remember. Martin Luther King was in Ghana with Richard Nixon. At that time, he was the vice president. And Martin Luther King told Richard Nixon, I want you to come to Alabama and see the yearning for freedom like what is happening here in Ghana. That is redistributing the pain. That is it. So I just wanted to throw that there. Yeah.
Okay. Just following up from what we've been discussing today, there's another question on the chat. Someone is saying, in the light of Martin's dream, what would you say has happened to Black leadership since the civil rights movement in the 1960s?
Oh, wow. The Black leadership in Africa, I really like that question. I really do. I'm sure all of us here on this panel remember the speech of Barack Obama in Ethiopia, when he was actually asking the African leader, why do you stay so long in power? No. When you can live and still enjoy the enormous wealth that you have. Something is wrong with us, Dr. Paul. Something has happened. And if we had listened, and most of these leaders in Africa grew up during the era of Martin Luther King. They listened to his speeches while some of them were in school. What has happened, and now that they have now come to the helm of power, they've decided to instead look at reality through the back of the mirror. No, but I don't know what medicine we need to find out to get to this riddle that you want to stay in power for perpetuity, and you still have to sign contract with former colonial masters, to be paying indemnities to France and Britain and all those other. Nobody can. I don't know if anybody has a solution to this, and let me know. This is what is wrong with our Black leaders. That they have not learned their lessons, my dear Dr. Amarachi, and nobody knows. Some of them were educated here in the West. This is extremely painful. This is what has triggered the pain again in some of us, my brother Osi. That while other countries are trying to extricate themselves from the throes of colonization, like what the Koreans are doing, they don't want to just follow what Japanese did to them, or what is happening, say, even in India, or even the Middle East. Africa is still, and right now, the other day I was telling you, we are now inviting Chinese languages on the continent of Africa just because they are bringing in money to give to our leaders, and we sell our land to them. We allow them to construct our road. We allow our people to learn Chinese languages and Chinese culture in this day and age. Something is going wrong. I don't know why. I don't know why the leaders have decided to sell their conscience, like what Shakespeare used to be, penny wise and pound foolish. I don't know why. I really don't know. Maybe somebody needs to come out and probably exorcise the African leaders to know that the Black race is really under the flame of extinction because they have failed to listen to the words of Martin Luther King, warning us that injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere.
I really appreciate the tone of your voice and the fact that we are not just here to criticize the West, but I appreciate the fact that you have vehemently criticized us too, criticized our African leaders in very clear terms, and that is why we are here to do. Another elder said, history is not a self-congratulatory exercise. We're not looking back into history and say, oh, we did this, we did that, we go for ourselves and pat ourselves in the back. No, we are also here to criticize ourselves and figure out what's wrong with us and how do we move forward from this mess that we have put ourselves into. And I'm hoping if we don't get to it today, maybe next time we can talk more about what can we be doing to for ourselves to move our countries, our continent forward.
Okay, do you encourage Africans who want to make a difference in their society to leave Africa to go to Americas and to Europe to be educated?
Incidentally, Dr. Paul, somebody sent me a WhatsApp. One of my brother in Canada sent me a WhatsApp message today, warning Africans not to send their kids again to Europe and America. And you know what I replied? I was telling the brother that this is extremely complicated. And let me explain. I was just reading one narrative, an essay, what that was sent to me by a scholar in Africa to edit for our journal here, our Journal of Communication. And you know what I finally did? I was instead sending the scholar some PowerPoint and some areas in which he or she can use in order to improve that paper. That was not borrowing Western knowledge to impose on an African. No. While sitting here in the United States, I was instead telling that my brother to tap from the sources in Africa. I remember having this discussion with my African-American brother colleague at Howard, who told me when he moved to Kenya with his children to study, moving with all the exuberance, with enthusiasm, to have his kids study African culture in Kenya. He was shocked that instead he went and saw that most of those his kids and the kids of other people were instead yearning to be sent to Western schools, British Council or European American. So you had to send the kid back to Chicago to learn African culture. Can you imagine a painful thing like that? Huh? When I was in the street of one city in Africa, and one of my colleagues who is in fashion here told me, please take the pictures of what people are wearing on the streets of Africa and send to me. When I sent the pictures, I came back here to her and said, what is going on? They are still, the entire from their head to their toe is Western dresses. And Lamia, you keep saying Afrocentricity, African for Africans. So where's the African? And I hear them speaking English on the streets. What is happening? So you guys have failed. You've not done your work. You've not done your job. Yeah. And again, this is my posture. I want to emphasize, it was not with my presence in Europe and America that I became what I became. I was a theater actor on Cameroon television. And most of the, and on debate. And most of the topic that we were engaged in was to empower our people to embrace our own. Can you imagine Ali Mazuri spoke Swahili at the African Union, remember? And our head of state were looking for earphones to get what? To have Swahili translated into English and French, the same language that was used to colonize us. When we were independent, what does independent mean? What does can somebody actually explain to me what independence mean? When an American is about to go to China, he needs to go to Chinese Language Institute to learn Chinese language. Learn how to use a chopstick. But when you are going to Africa, you just go. You say, take me to the Sahara. That's what is happening to us. The disrespect for the African person by the Westerner is something I cannot even describe, because we have failed to love our own people, to be ourselves. We instead want to be somebody else's. Remember I told you about the creams? Remember I told you about the hair? Yep. I remember I told you about the religion? You know, the Arab came with their mosque everywhere in Africa. Christian, they came with their churches everywhere in Africa.
Yeah, that
our own religion. Oh, it's superstitious. Hey, don't believe in it.
That when I first time I went to Ghana, that had to be one of the more disappointing, but as well kind of reality smacked me in the face. The first time I went to Ghana and I saw the churches with the white Jesus, I was like, oh wow. For coming from the States, it wasn't as prominent because there's a lot of churches here that push up the black Jesus, but that message hasn't really left America. And so when I was in Ghana and I saw these churches, I had to step back and realize that the problem of white supremacy is a global problem.
It's a global
problem. And no matter where you are, you got to face it. So that was one of the hardest things I had to kind of face.
And Dr. Paul, how many African students in the tropical part of Africa and the north part of Africa have taken a trip to the Orthodox Church in Ethiopia?
Right.
No, you tell me. I was not taken. Whereas my teachers were quote unquote black teachers.
Right.
Oh, Dr. Paul, I don't know. That's why I believe. Oziri, help me.
Yeah.
I have to take this question here. It's from somebody that I know, John Guan. John Guan and I, we went to school together at Grambling State University. Okay. So John Guan, a big shout out to you. And John Guan is from Cameroon, and he has this question. He says, as a Cameroonian, what do you think about the Ambazonia movement? And what do you think is the solution to the problems in Cameroon? Cameroon is a perfect case study for many African countries.
Okay, good. As a Pan-Africanist, PLO Lumumba, I'm sure most of us are listening to a speech of PLO Lumumba. He said he was appalled that there was a language war in Cameroon between the Francophones and the Anglophones. Language war. These were all black Africans before the white man came and divided them into French and English in Cameroon. Now, because of that, we black people are fighting among ourselves. So the Ambazonia struggle in Cameroon is one that a group of people who have embraced a certain culture called the British culture, because that was the British Cameroon, and another group of people who were the French Cameroon Empire. The French Cameroon Empire imposed its French language and culture in the eastern part of Cameroon. The French wanted to impose that language on the people of the southwest and the southern part of Cameroon. And so they had people in the classroom teaching them in French language, whereas they grew up learning the English language. The same system I was telling you while I was in primary school. So the teacher said, wait a minute, something is not right here. So they wanted to carry what we call internal colonization. So that is where the resistance is, internal colonization. And I bet you, I am a child from that southern part of Cameroon, where we grew up, as I told, I went to primary school, and instead of carrying out my Cameroonian-born culture, the kind of food I was eating, the kind of clothing, the kind of language, the kind of vision that I was brought up by my mother and my father, no, I was instead told to learn about the London Bridge, or to learn about Queen Victoria and the rest. So these people said, no, we cannot be colonized twice. We cannot be colonized by the West, and then we have another internal colonization by the French Cameroonians. So that's why they're resisting. And of course, who will not support people who are oppressed and they're seeking for freedom? Who knows whether, even because of the linguistic aspect that was carried about, the cultural aspect can bourgeon. Look at me here, look at my idea of decolonization and de-neocolonization from that part of the world. It means that I have tasted the soup of African culture. I have seen the destruction of Western culture, that I am ready now to embrace my African culture. And this is what the people of the Ambazonia, people of that part of the country are yearning for. Give us that freedom, then we'll look for another freedom. So that's what they are fighting for. Of course, how can I not support it? Martin Luther King will support it. And they started their movement with nonviolence style, my brother and sister. And yet, the French Cameroon came there and they started using weapons made from the West. Using weapons made from the West, weapons of mass destruction. And they were and they are still killing people right now. No, you are sowing the seed of anger. What will happen to people who feed with anger? They are going to rise up, and that's what is happening in that part of the country. So that's my answer to that.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Professor. Just following up from the previous response that you gave, somebody is asking, why is it that those accomplished Africans like yourself prefer to remain in the comfort of Europe and not America? How then shall we grow and implement what you're telling us now?
Okay, good, excellent question. I like that. And one of my students, my PhD student, came out with this theory of a brain drain and brain gain and brain circulation. Brain drain, brain gain, and brain circulation, 3. So what I do, I'm a visiting professor to a number of universities in Africa. I'm always in Africa 3 times a year. So I don't sit here most of it. It's because of this imposed, I don't know whether it is naturally imposed coronavirus, that has imprisoned me on this chair in this my study here. I'm always outside there. So the fact that I'm here does not literally, because it's just my physical body here anyway. It's just my physical body. Because whether we like it or not, where you find yourself in the world does not matter. Oh, that physical body, it is your ideology. It is actually what you stand for that can bring change to the rest of the world. So I know people who live in Europe, I know people who are living here in the United States. I know people who are living in Africa like PLO Lumumba, who are advocating these same ideals. You don't need to be in Africa to know about the horrors of what the French people are doing to our people there in Africa. Sometimes, even when you're in Africa, you are not even aware. Sometimes you're not aware because you just go with the flow. You just go and buy your spaghetti and eat instead of eating the organic yam, the organic cocoa yam that will make you a wholesome body and not have all the cancer or So I'm doing a disservice to myself by being in prison here. But what gives me hope is my Howard University. where you need to come there. You see all kinds of workshops and seminars and all kinds of renowned authors on planet Earth that come there to to give us some hope for the African man. So I think it's not where you find yourself, it's actually what you write or what you preach about and what you teach the rest of mankind. You can be in China and your mind can still be in Africa.
That is a very good point. And we also need to understand that there are African people all over the world, and it's important to work together wherever we are, because your position and your location can lend you some advantages which you can bring to the table. And that takes me to the next question actually on the chat room here from Mohammed, which says, what about the lack of a coordinated and a collective leadership in the African American community today since the days of Martin and Malcolm during the civil rights movement?
Good. Oh yeah, that's another excellent point, but it's coming. The tides are changing with Kamala Harris there now, with Barack Obama. So the tides are changing. I am cautiously optimistic. I am cautiously optimistic because of the kind of student that I'm really listening to right now at Howard University. No, we never had this kind of forward-thinking Black student that I am now seeing at Howard, honestly. So there is hope. So leadership is not a physical body. Leadership is actually the spirit, it's the ideology. Leadership has to do with what you are writing about. Look at Cornel West. Now just read Cornel West, for instance. Listen to the videos of Cornel, listen to the speeches on the videos of Cornel West on YouTube. Or listen to Molefi Kete Asante of Temple University. Huh? Whose name, of course, is all Africanized. Huh? And so I have hope that in spite of the fact that we are all looking for one kind of leader, no, they are leaders now from all kinds of spheres in the African American community that are already pushing us to the limelight of embracing our own. I was impressed when I was in Ghana the other day, not only visiting W.E.B. Du Bois' memorabilia, you could actually feel that the leadership of W.E.B. Du Bois, the idea of double consciousness in these post-soul folks of the Black man, that people have now come to the realization that no, it is time for us to stand up and have Black pride. And that Black pride from all these leaders I've told you, Cornel West, Molefi Asante, W.E.B. Du Bois, or Barack Obama, or Kamala Harris, or now Amanda Gorman. Amanda, without that poem, my brother, who could have imagined? How many years? 200 years. A skinny kid, female, standing there in face of the world to show Black excellence. So that is hope. Very good hope. Again, with HBCUs, you know. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, this is a very stimulating conversation we're having today. And Professor, I know you're a very busy man, but I would want to crave your indulgence if we can bring you back next week, because we have so many questions and we cannot take all of it. Just looking at the time now, I mean, I'm amazed that 1 hour has just flown by. So please, we would love to have you again on this platform next week if your time and your schedule will permit.
Oh, next week, no, can you just give me 1 week? Because you remember, I'm also a scholar, I'm an author, so I review all kinds of books. I have some publishers on me. It is this, my brother Osiri, who said, no, we want to have this thing with you. I said, so give me 1 or 2 more weeks, please. Not that I cannot do it next week, just because I don't want to finish something from my desktop here. I just click send, and then I get back.
That's fine, Professor. We'll give you at least a week or 2, and then we would have you back again. I don't know how, I mean, all the others are feeling, the attendees, but for me, I have gained quite a lot. And it is amazing that we are privileged to have you on this platform today. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you. I don't know if you have any last words for us today.
Before his last words, let me just quickly thank Professor Kebuma Langnier for believing in us and coming here to inspire us. He is also one of our elders now. He's been asked to join us as an Omukulu at Osiri University. He's going to be guiding us and advising us. And I also have to say this, and I know he may not like this, but he's also been generous financially by helping us jumpstart our scholarship fund. So we are very thankful for him. So he's talking the talk, he's also walking the walk, and we are so thankful for him, for his inspiration, for his support, and for the work that he does. So now I think, Dr. Marachi, over to you, please.
But thank you so much, Professor. I don't know if you have any last words for us today, you know, something to keep us till you come back again.
Okay, all right. I would just want to reiterate what the quotation I gave you from Dr. Chris Wilson, who was an assistant professor at Howard, who said, "We are the only people on planet Earth that have been taught to sing our demeanment, that I'm a hoe, I'm a dog, I'm a gangster." Well, you know what it means to me? When I hear my black brother and black saying, "You nigger, you nigger, you nigger," what are we doing? So we are perpetuating negativity. We are actually giving the ticket to the white person who define us. That is good to call ourselves nigger. So I am like Martin Luther King, having a dream that there will come a time when nobody will ever teach us to demean ourselves. Nobody will ever say black is not beautiful. Nobody will ever say they will have to impose their clothing on us, impose their language on us, impose their ways of thinking. Even here, I try as much as possible, Dr. Marachi, to look for an African food store to go and get my organic food, while waiting for my trip to Africa, where I will refresh myself with a natural organic food that is being planted on the soil with no Western fertilizer. That makes me thank you.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to my colleagues, Professor Osiri and Paul Easterlin, for co-hosting today. And to our attendees, I'm sure you guys have taken a lot of value from this conversation today. So thank you all for coming in, and we will definitely bring back Professor again. So have a wonderful day. And until next week, it's goodbye from all of us. Ubuntu.
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 Ubuntu.